She looked at his dirty boots. She looked at his skin color. And then, she spit on the ground next to him. "You are disgusting," she screamed. "Get out of my sight before I call the police." Victoria thought she was just yelling at a lazy construction worker who was loitering in her lobby. She thought he was nobody. But she made a fatal mistake. Because the man she just humiliated wasn't the janitor. He was the billionaire owner of the building she was desperate to buy. And he was about to teach her a lesson she would never forget. It all started 10 minutes earlier. The lobby of the Sterling Tower was silent until Victoria stormed in. She was the CEO of Apex Realty. Rich, entitled, and running late. She was texting furiously on her phone, ignoring the world around her, when she rounded the corner and smashed into a solid wall of a man. Splash. Hot espresso exploded everywhere. It covered the marble floor. It soaked the man's dusty work boots. And a few drops landed on Victoria's white designer heels. She gasped. She looked up at the man. Marcus. A tall, black man wearing a faded high-visibility vest and holding the hand of his terrified 5-year-old daughter. Marcus didn't get angry. He immediately reached for his pocket. "Ma'am," he said, his voice calm. "I am so sorry. Are you hurt?" He crouched down, trying to help wipe the coffee from her shoe with his handkerchief. That was when she snapped. She didn't see a father trying to help. She saw a thug touching her expensive clothes. She kicked his hand away. Hard. "Don't you dare touch me," she shrieked. "Look what you did. This suit costs more than your entire life." Marcus stood up slowly. He pulled his daughter, Lily, behind his leg to protect her. "It was an accident," he said. "You ran into me." Victoria laughed. A cruel, cold sound. "I ran into you? Please. Look at you. You don't belong here. You're probably just here to beg for change, or steal copper wire." She leaned in close, her eyes full of hate. "This is a place of business, not a shelter for people like you. Clean this up, or I will have security drag you and that brat out to the street." Marcus stared at her. For a second, his grip on the blueprints tightened until his knuckles turned ashen. He had dealt with people like Victoria his entire life. People who looked at a black man in work boots and saw a servant. People who saw a single father with a child and assumed he was broken or irresponsible. He took a deep breath, swallowing his anger for Lily's sake. "I am not the janitor," Marcus said quietly. "And I am not cleaning up a mess that you made." Victoria's jaw dropped. She wasn't used to being told no, especially not by someone she considered beneath her. Her face turned a bright shade of red. "Excuse me," she screeched. She pulled out her phone, tapping the screen aggressively. "I don't think you understand how the world works. I am a CEO. I am here to buy this building. And you? You are nobody. You are a liability." She glared at the security guard stationed at the front desk. "Hey, you. Why is this man still here? He assaulted me. He ruined my property. I want him removed immediately." The security guard, a man named Gentle Old Joe, looked up. Joe knew exactly who Marcus was. He started to rush over. "Mr. Sterl." But Marcus held up a hand, subtly signaling Joe to stop. He shook his head slightly. He wanted to see how far she would go. Victoria turned back to Marcus, a smug smile playing on her lips. "You see? You're in trouble now. I bet you have a record, don't you? Boys like you always do. Aggressive, violent, unable to follow simple rules." She looked down at Lily, who was now crying silently. And raising a child in that environment? It's a shame, really. Someone should probably call social services. That girl deserves better than a father who drags her into high-end buildings to cause scenes. That was the line. Marcus felt a cold fire ignite in his chest. Insult him? Fine. Insult his work? Fine. But question his fatherhood? Question his love for his daughter? He crouched down, ignoring Victoria completely for a moment. He wiped a tear from Lily's cheek. "It's okay, baby girl," he whispered softly. "This lady is just having a very bad day. We're going to go upstairs now. Daddy has a meeting." He stood up to his full height, towering over Victoria. His eyes were like steel. "You are here to buy this building?" he asked, his voice dangerously low. "I am," she spat back. "I'm meeting the owner, Mr. Sterling. And when I tell him that he allows trash to wander his lobby, he will fire whoever let you in." Marcus nodded slowly. "Is that so? Well then, I suppose I shouldn't keep you. Don't be late." He took Lily's hand and walked past her, heading straight for the executive elevators. Victoria scoffed. "Hey, you can't use those. Those are for VIPs only." But Marcus didn't look back. He pressed his palm against the scanner. The elevator beeped green. The doors slid open, and as the doors closed, Victoria was left standing there, confused, angry, and completely oblivious to the grave she had just dug. 10 minutes later, Victoria was a different person. She had wiped the coffee from her shoes. She had fixed her hair. And now, she sat at the head of a massive mahogany table in the penthouse conference room. The room was filled with her team of lawyers and financial advisors. Opposite them sat the board of directors for Sterling Enterprises. The air was thick with tension. This was a multi-million-dollar deal. If Victoria pulled this off, she would be the most powerful real estate mogul in the city. So, Victoria said, flashing her practiced corporate smile, "Where is this mysterious Mr. Sterling? My time is very valuable." One of the board members, an older woman with glasses, checked her watch. "Mr. Sterling is extremely punctual. He likes to inspect the sites personally before a sale. He wants to ensure the buyer respects the integrity of his designs." Victoria laughed, checking her reflection in her phone screen. Integrity. Right. Well, as long as the building is sound. I don't care about the artistic sentimentalities. I plan to get the lobby anyway. It's too open. Let's in too much riffraff. She leaned over to her VP, whispering loudly, "You wouldn't believe what happened downstairs. Some construction worker, a huge thug, practically attacked me. Spilled coffee everywhere. Had his kid with him too. It was pathetic." Her VP chuckled nervously. "Did you call security?" "Of course," Victoria bragged. "I put him in his place. Someone needed to teach him a lesson about hierarchy. These people, they think they can just walk in anywhere. It's the entitlement that gets me. I told him he'd be arrested if he didn't leave." The board members on the other side of the table exchanged awkward glances. They knew Mr. Sterling was a single father. They knew he often came to the office straight from his construction sites because he loved the hands-on work. Suddenly, the heavy double doors at the end of the room clicked. The room went silent. "Ah," the older woman said. "Here he is." Victoria stood up, smoothing out her suit jacket. She put on her most charming smile. "Finally, let's get this over with." The doors swung open. Victoria expected an old white man in a suit. She expected someone who looked like her, someone from her world. But instead, in walked Marcus. He had removed the dusty orange vest. Underneath, he wore a crisp, black t-shirt that hugged his muscles, and the same dusty jeans. He held the blueprint tube in one hand. And sitting on his hip, holding a juice box, was Lily. Victoria froze. Her smile faltered, twitching into a confused grimace. She blinked rapidly. "What?" she muttered under her breath. "What is he doing here?" She turned to the board members, an angry laugh bubbling up in her throat. "Is this a joke? Security. I told you to get rid of him." She pointed a manicured finger at Marcus. "You? How did you get up here? Did you follow me? You are stalking me now." Marcus didn't say a word. He walked calmly to the head of the table. The board members didn't call security. Instead, they all stood up. They bowed their heads in respect. "Good morning, Mr. Sterling," they said in unison. Victoria's blood ran cold. Her hand dropped to her side. The room started to spin. "Mr. Sterling," she whispered. Marcus set Lily down in the big leather chair at the head of the table. He handed her a coloring book from his bag. "Be good for Daddy for 5 minutes. Okay, sweetie?" "Okay, Daddy," she chirped. Then, slowly, deliberately, Marcus turned to face Victoria. The silence in the room was heavy enough to crush bones. Victoria was trembling. Her brain was trying to process the information, but it wouldn't fit. The dirty construction worker, the thug, the man she had insulted, humiliated, and threatened. He was the owner. He was the architect. He was the billionaire she was trying to impress. "Why you?" she stammered. "But, the vest, the boots." Marcus placed his hands on the table and leaned forward. "I like to check the foundation of my buildings personally," he said, his voice echoing with authority. "I built this tower from the ground up. I know every bolt, every beam, and every flaw." He looked her dead in the eyes. "And today, I found a major flaw, not in the building, but in the potential buyer." Victoria tried to salvage the situation. She forced a terrified laugh. Oh my goodness. Mr. Sterling. I had no idea. You must understand, it was a misunderstanding. I thought you were, well, with the construction crew. It was just a joke. We were just bantering in the lobby." "Bantering?" Marcus repeated. He walked slowly around the table toward her. "You call me trash. You said I was looking for a handout. You said my daughter didn't belong here. Victoria backed away, bumping into her chair. I was stressed. The meeting, the traffic. I didn't mean it. I am not a racist person, Mr. Sterling. I have friends who are black. I donate to charities. You called security on me, Marcus continued, his voice rising slightly. You looked at my skin and assumed I was a criminal. You looked at my clothes and assumed I was poor. And because you thought I had no power, you treated me like dirt. He stopped right in front of her. He was imposing, powerful. That is not a misunderstanding, Victoria. That is a revelation of character. You showed me exactly who you are when you think no one important is watching. Victoria looked around the room for help, but her own team was looking down at their papers, too embarrassed to meet her eyes. The board members were staring at her with judgment. Please, she begged, her voice shaking. This deal, my company needs this. I've leveraged everything. If we don't sign today, I lose everything. Let's be professionals. Business is business. Marcus picked up the contract that was sitting on the table. It was thick, binding, worth millions. He looked at it. Then he looked at Lily, who was happily coloring a picture of a castle. You're right, Marcus said softly. Business is business. Marcus shook his head. My daughter doesn't need your apology. She needs a father who protects her from people like you. He pointed to the door, the same way she had pointed him to the exit downstairs. Get out of my building, Victoria. And don't ever, set foot in one of my properties again. If you do, I will have you arrested for trespassing. Victoria looked at the shredded contract. She looked at the man she had mocked. She realized the magnitude of her mistake. She grabbed her bag, sobbing, and ran out of the room. Her team scrambled to follow her, apologizing profusely to Marcus as they fled. The heavy doors clicked shut. The room was quiet again. Marcus let out a long breath. He rolled his shoulders, the tension finally leaving his body. He walked over to the head of the table and picked up Lily. Did the bad lady leave? Lily asked, looking up with big brown eyes. Marcus kissed her forehead. Yes, baby. She's gone. She won't bother us ever again. He walked over to the window, looking out over the city skyline he had helped build. He wasn't just a construction worker. He wasn't just a statistic. He was a father. He was a creator. And today, he had reminded the world that you can never judge a book or a builder by its cover. Victoria lost her job 3 days later. But Marcus? He kept building. Because true worth isn't in what you wear. It's in how you treat the people who can do nothing for you. Do you think Victoria got what she deserved? If you think Marcus did the right thing, hit that like button right now. It helps us share this message with the world. And listen, if you want to see more stories about karma, justice, and people getting exactly what they deserve, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss the next story. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that kindness is always free. Thanks for watching.